I was going to speak on the verse today, but I think instead I should just say what comes to my heart. I just thought as we read the Ten Commandments, we're living really in the midst of a society that kind of laughs at the whole idea, you know. And I just thought again, you of course are sitting ducks really, because Greg and Joanne are somewhat protected, but even they are all the time on the phone or by this means and that engaged in talking with the people of this country and this generation and this century. And I just caught a glimpse of the great temptation it would be for all of us to, we have a saying, at least in Ireland and I think in England, to pass ourselves. So if you're in a house which is strongly Republican and you're a Democrat and somebody asks you, how was it? You say, oh, I passed myself. I just passed myself. It means I just said as much as I could without offending them, and I tried to fit in with them. And of course, that is a great part of salesmanship. We can't get anywhere with people if we make ourselves obnoxious to them. You're not going to sell anything to anybody who just thinks you don't understand them at all. So obviously a great part of our responsibility, whether we're in the office or on the road, is to make ourselves at least understandable to people and make them feel they can talk to us about the things that they're concerned about, which of course we feel will probably be their business. So that undoubtedly is part of what we have to do, and I'm sure that's part of what Jesus achieved just by being a human being and being able to talk to us all about the things that we understood. So undoubtedly that's an important part of our life and our ministry. But it just occurred to me, it's very easy to become a faceless nobody who just agrees with whatever is said to them. And it's very easy, even when it comes to things that we know are right or wrong in God's eyes, it's very easy to just kind of pass ourselves. And I thought that at least I should share with you our responsibility that He has given us in the light of the fact that many of the people you meet, you will never meet again. And many of them will die before you have any opportunity to speak to them. And so it's certainly important that we always walk in a way that we feel Christ is Himself comfortable with. And if you say to me, pick a fight with them, no, I agree with you fully. Even if they say something that is utterly opposed to what you and I know to be right, I certainly think you avoid picking a fight with people. I think there are many times when you could lose the sale or make the sale. I think there are many situations where it comes to your heart or your conscience, well, wait a minute, what is more important to me here? And it seems to me vital that you settle that very fast in your own thinking. because you don't have to go too far until you've gone too far. So it seems very important that you always comport yourself in a manner and in a detailed way that you would be pleased for the Saviour to see and to approve of. And so I would certainly encourage you to see that we're not there to deny ourselves. We're not there to encourage other people to deny God. We're there in every way, first of all, to make them begin to think that they were made by somebody who loves them and who cares for them and somebody who understands them. And it seems to me that's the first reason we go in there. The first practical reason is we have that case with us or the iPad with us and we're there to show them jewelry. But the first reason we're there is so that they will find it easier or more likely to believe in God than not to believe in Him. And I would say that is vitally true when you come to those points in a conversation where you can go either the nice way to pass yourself or the way that is true according to what you know. If you say to me, well, you know, there are often those comments they make and they don't really mean them, they're just passing the time of day. What do you do with them? Well, I agree with you. I don't think it helps at all to suggest to people that you don't know what ordinary everyday conversation is about and that much of it is just being pleasant to each other and exchanging a few cliches. I think where it's obviously that, it seems to me you do it. But I think all of us know there are moments that come in a conversation where it is all turning in the wrong direction and you think to yourself, boy, there is no way back to truth from this position that we're beginning to approve of here. And there, I think, decisions have to be made. And so I think we do, if we ask God to bless the work of our hands, He has to be able to do it in a way that does not at the same time deny Himself and deny His truth. The other side of it is, if we don't take seriously our responsibility of living every moment in His presence, then it seems to me it's not long before we look around and He seems not to be there anymore. And our own life seems to have become just a please everybody in order to get sales. So I think that we face these things especially in a society, I hesitate to say it's Corinthian, you know, that it's utterly depraved and utterly perverted. But there's a lot of perversion around and a lot of depravity around. And it is undoubtedly not the society that it used to be here 30, 40 years ago, and it's certainly not the society that our parents were brought up in. And it is a society that has got very easygoing in all its views, all its opinions, and indeed its practices. Does it help to disagree with obvious things, like them casually saying he lives with his girlfriend? I think that there are certain things that you're not even dealing with an opinion that they have. You're not even dealing with a real wrong. You're dealing just with words coming from a mouth to fill in the gap. I don't think you pick a fight. But it seems to me there are times when you sense the spirit of this conversation is not right. This is not healthy. And I think there is always a time to say, well, I know what you're saying, and I think that's what most people think today. I myself don't think that. I think this. There is, I think, a place for honest disagreement and expressed in a way that they can respect. And that, more than that, can make them think. And often that is part of the opportunity that God gives us. He gives us an opportunity just to reinforce something that they're actually already doubtful about. And some of them are trying to feel out to grab a piece of wood that will keep them afloat. And so there are situations where it is your responsibility and your opportunity to say what you really think is true. It seems to me it's something that you do under God's guidance. Similarly, I think it's under his guidance that you have to go the cliche route, because there's no doubt, to some extent, cliches can be just empty chatter and can be just idle chatter, which the Bible forbids. So sometimes the cliches are not harmless. But it does seem that you have a responsibility to distinguish between the harmless cliche, the one that is actually building up untruth, and away at the other end, an attitude that is, you're very clear, is not a right or true attitude. So I do believe that God is giving us this opportunity. I don't think it's easy. I'll agree with anybody here who says, aren't there a lot of there are a lot of uncertain situations in this. But if you say to me, how can you walk right? I think there's only one. I think it has to be Ephesians 2 and 6, 4 through 6. And God, who is rich in mercy, out of the great love with which he has loved us, even when we were dead through our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, and raised us up with him, and made us sit with him in the heavenly places, that in the coming ages he might show forth the riches of his grace and kindness towards us. And it has to be living in the joy of that. It has to be living in the confident delight of that. It's only, it seems to me, that way that you can go into a shop or a store with a living presence of Jesus that in turn communicates itself to the person that you're talking to. I think if you go in without that, well, getting back to Hank Paulson, so I put on my sword and went into the meeting. That's your sword, and that's your shield of faith. If you go in without your sword and shield, I think you're defenseless, and you'll be drawn down this way and that way until you've lost your way completely. So I'd encourage you to think about these things and to once again see you are a soldier of the King. Plus, nobody here is going to fire you because you didn't get sales. So we have nothing to fear. We can go on as we're going. I've said often to you, in reality, we could turn the whole thing down. We could end it all and just do the ministry. But it does seem that God has given us a way to communicate with people who don't know him in an ordinary, everyday job situation. And I don't know, but Rinnie will remember, as we first came to London, it seemed such a hideous situation we were in. Sure, I wore a frock suit, that clerical collar and frock coat, and we would walk across from 2A Melrose Gardens there across in Hammersmith, to the church. And there would be, I think, 70 or 80 people in the morning, and maybe 30, 40 in the evening. And we thought to ourselves, this is bonkers. They only a fraction of them are really serious about God. And here, this city around us is filled with people going in and out of businesses every day. So that's why we're in. I'd remind you, that's why we're in it. And it would be better if we could stay in it. But I think we're only staying in it if we remain his soldiers, if we remain men and women who live in his presence. Then we're doing some good. Otherwise, all we're doing is we're back in the old business. If you say to me, aren't we making profits so that we can make, so that we can put more websites up? What good will the websites be if our own lives are not websites? So it seems to me that's what we're in, And here's the beauty of it. I can share this with you just as brothers and sisters, Not as the boss man, or not as the minister, or not as somebody we should please. Here we are together. We know we can survive. You're not dependent on me for the money. The money's there. We have it in the bank. We have it in various assets. We can release it all, and we can all break up and go. So we're here because Jesus has called us. And I'd encourage you to remember that as you go out. And as we're on the phone, and Greg, as we're dealing with people. If we're not light, what's the point of being there? If we're not living to live in the society, why spend all this time and effort? So I still think it's a wonderful opportunity. But only insofar as we ourselves are true to him and true to ourselves, and can come out of a store feeling, I'm pleased that the Lord saw me and heard everything that was said in that conversation. And if not, then quietly in the car, apologize to him and trust him for grace to make it a blessing in the next store. But I think that's why we're here.